Come on. All right, we're live. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Martini Shot Hangout. I got two special guests today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Academy Award nominations, some controversies coming up. Robert Eggers has had a pretty big weeks. Two new movies coming out. And so anyway, without further ado, I wanted to introduce him. We'll start with Ash versus movies over here. Ash, if how you doing today? You want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ashlyn, Ash First Movies. Just throwing that out there because people think my name is Ashley.
Oh, okay. It's Ashlyn. All right.
So
See,
fun
I thought it
fact.
was Ashley as well.
See? But yeah, Ash is fine. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm
Of course.
over here in West Coast, California. It's not too cold today, pretty sunny. But yeah, I mean, as far as my account, I think I started TikTok in like 2022 and didn't really merge into more like film content until closer to like the end of that year,
Okay.
leading into 2023. And honestly, it's just been great. It's kind of forced me to watch more movies, check so many things off my watch list. I've met so many people like you guys, obviously, and my co-host Harry and Byron started a podcast. So yeah, it's just been a great journey, and I can't believe it's been over 2 years since that. But obviously, with all the TikTok drama, it's been a roller coaster. But yeah, I just have fun making content for fun. This is just kind of like a side little hobby for me. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here and love chatting movies.
Yeah, it's great. I love watching your stuff. You always have a quirky, bubbly personality with it. I think the first thing I saw of yours was the Always Sunny in
Oh
Philadelphia,
yeah,
different things on TikTok, and I was like, all right, I have to follow this girl. This is great. So and that had to be your biggest TikTok, right?
yeah, definitely. I did not expect that to be such a thing,
Yeah,
and
you never know. You never know what's just gonna pop off.
gotta be careful what you post on the internet. Yeah, it'll just kind of keep coming back around. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love Always Sunny. It's my favorite sitcom TV show. So
Me too.
always
Me
happy
too.
to.
Actually, I'm gonna do a YouTube video ranking all 16 seasons. So I might have to have you come back on and we can discuss that at another time.
That would be great.
Yeah. And so I'm joined by another a person here, the lovely Marta McFly. Another play on words when it comes to movies. Marta and I've chatted a little bit over the past year or so. She's a busy gal, so I really appreciate her hopping on to talk a little movies with us. So Marta, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, thanks. Thank you for having me on. I feel
Of
like whenever I
course.
speak to you, it's always under not the greatest circumstances.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That was I
maybe,
think that was the last time we spoke
yeah,
in person was about your
exactly.
TikTok ban
Yep.
because you're posting that spicy stuff over there.
Oh, so much spice. Because should be taking it to OF. No, I'm kidding. I
Oh
only
dear.
make movie content.
Yeah.
Let's make that very clear. But yeah, no, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. About me, I guess I am a film journalist, podcaster,
Mhm.
writer. That's kind of what I do. So I'm here.
Yeah. And purveyor of the most obscure films.
I try.
You're
Yes.
keeping it alive, girl. Like I think
Thank you.
Criterion Channel should hire you
I
for
think so
like
too.
yeah, to dictate what needs to be released next.
Absolutely.
It's fun. I think it's so important, especially in our day and age, to just, as I said the last time I came on, just to know about those building blocks, and it becomes like a fun Easter egg hunt to
Yeah.
watch something modern and, Leo DiCaprio from your couch and just be like, oh my God, I saw this in this movie from
Mhm.
1954 or whatever. So yeah, it's a way of oral preservation and oral film preservation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I really like is, I watch so many movies. But what's nice and refreshing for someone like me is if I go to your Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I can find a movie I've never even heard of. And I mean, you've given me plenty of recommendations where I'll go check out a movie, and I think that's great. It's uh for big film buffs, it's like it's interesting because you can think you're a gigantic film buff and then someone like you comes along and you're like, man, I don't even know. I've never heard of this movie in my life, so I'm gonna have to go check it out.
I
So
mean,
it's great.
it's I think it's a lifelong journey.
Mhm,
And what I always point people towards is the excuse me, the honorary Oscar that Akira Kurosawa won. Can't
mhm.
remember when this was, but he went on stage and he even said something like, I don't think I've still learned enough about cinema yet, or I don't think
Yeah.
I still understand cinema yet. And to have Kurosawa say that, I mean, it's so true. We're always going to be constantly learning, and it's just this lifelong journey, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, Ash, do you find yourself in that category? Sometimes you're like, "Dang, what is this movie Marta's talking about? I want to go check it out."
Yeah, no, she's given me great recommendations. We even did like a episode on her podcast for a
Mhm.
couple Jacques Demy movies, and I had never seen any of them, and now I love all three that she showed me, and I have one of them on Criterion, and yeah, I feel like everything she's recommended, I've loved. So if Marta tells me to watch it, I watch it.
That's
That's the
awesome.
rule.
Yeah, and I mean, I also like, Marta, that, sometimes with your reviews, you'll sprinkle in something recently. So, like, the first time I heard about Sing Sing was actually from you, and so when I went and checked out that movie, I was like, "Marta gave this 5 stars." So, I went in with big expectations, and I left very satisfied.
Oh, you
So,
did? Oh,
yeah.
yay.
And no, it was great. I think you saw it you saw it pretty early on, right? Like,
Hmm.
before it was garnering any buzz whatsoever.
Yeah, it was interesting with that one because it had a limited release, and
Mhm.
then it just kind of went silent for months, it
Yeah,
seems,
A
and now
A24
it's
did
out.
that movie no favors.
Mm-mm.
I don't get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I don't
really don't
either.
get it.
Yeah. So okay, well, let's move on to talk a little bit about the Oscars. I know you mentioned the honorary Oscar, and we're going to talk about someone who actually he himself received an honorary Oscar, which to me is kind of a travesty. It's almost kind of like one of those things where like, hey, you did really good, so here you go, man. um, all right, let me share this right here with you guys. Pull this up here.
Mhm.
All right, here's so interesting. What's been kind of funny, sitting back from my angle is this seems to be one of the more controversial Academy Award nominee list I think I can remember in quite a while, and so I don't know if that's going to stir up a lot to get more viewership. But in Best Picture, I agree with a lot of the movies. The one that's really standing out, especially in the film community, is Amelia Perez. Um, and I wasn't sure how you all thought about that movie. I watched it, and then I before it really garnered any buzz whatsoever. I thought it wasn't a very good movie. I think that's putting it mildly. But I was curious where you two kind of stood on this. Ash, if you want to kind of start, have you seen any of these movies, and have you watched Amelia Perez?
I have seen some of these movies, yes. I will admit I am a bit behind on new releases since like about September,
Fair
so
enough.
I haven't seen as many as I'd like to see.
Yeah.
About Anora was kind of my
Oh man.
favorite of the year, so that one I'm happy to see. I actually still haven't gotten to see Wicked, but that doesn't like surprise me. The Substance I loved, so I'm happy about that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've not heard good things about Amelia Perez, and I feel like I don't know anyone that really enjoyed it, and I have
No.
a pretty big mutual group of people who tend to disagree on, a lot of different films, and everyone
Sure.
seems to kind of agree across the board. So I haven't even really bothered wasting my time on it. I'm sure I will before the Oscars, of course, but yeah, I'm really shocked to see that it has 13
Yeah,
nominations.
it's I think it has as many nominations as Return of the King, which is the
Wild.
biggest Academy Award winning movie of all time. So yeah, Marta, what do you kind of take away from all of this?
Oh man, I saw Amelia Perez at the Vancouver International Film Festival. This was either late September, early October,
Okay.
and I think I was more on the generous side of things compared to a lot of my mutuals
Sure.
who are rating it like half star, 1 star. I gave it 2 stars.
Hmm.
And that is because I think there are elements that I undeniably thought were good. I thought Zoe Saldana was excellent with what
She's
she
solid
was
always.
given. So I like that. I thought the costumes, those were done by Saint Laurent, those were beautiful. And the cinematography was good.
Hmm.
So that's kind of I'm like really scraping here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you're picking out a couple things here.
Yeah, but besides that, I mean, my issues with it were it had, as I wrote in my letterbox review, it had the intentions of a well-meaning trans story, but I think the way it was executed was very poorly done.
Hmm.
I thought it was offensive. Um,
Yeah.
there was that one scene with the Israeli surgeon. I mean, it was an early screening actually at the festival, so it was just critics. And I remember sitting in a row and just the ripple effect of laughter that started happening because
Yeah.
people were in shock. So I don't think it was. Yeah, I was flabbergasted. I still am flabbergasted. I'm still
Me-
kind of speechless at how this movie is sweeping the Oscars right now in terms of nominations.
And it's one of those things where it kind of feels like Hollywood's just really out of touch with what people like, because
Yeah.
I don't, like you said, you were pretty generous, but you still didn't like the movie.
Hmm.
Um, and if you go on Twitter, I mean, it's like, people are like, what is happening? I don't understand how this movie's receiving. Like nobody seems to really enjoy this movie. And yeah, like you're right. I thought it was offensive, and and a lot of the stuff in there is unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
Like almost to the point where you feel like you're watching an SNL sketch or something. The songs
Hmm.
aren't catchy or good. They're not good at all. Which was kind of surprising that won over Wicked, because I thought Wicked, for me personally, I wasn't looking forward to Wicked, and I ended up loving it.
Oh wow.
I took my daughter to it. She's just like a musical head, and she was like over the moon with how much she enjoyed that. But anyway, that's a sidebar. But yeah, it's a weird thing. And so the other part I wanted to kind of discuss on this is the AI issues that have kind of
Mm.
creeped their ugly head in. I know the Brutalist has taken the brunt end of it, but there was also apparently AI used in Amelia Perez as well. So,
For what? For it was the singing, right?
so what? Yeah, for one of the songs they mixed. I can't remember the lead's name. Um, the lead actress in that, they were mixing
Carlos
her
Sofia
voice
Vergara.
with AI. So apparently that's been coming out about that. So I was interested to know how you felt, if either of you've seen The Brutalist, um, and kind of how you feel about that, because I have a lot of thoughts on the
Hmm.
direction this is going, and I see some people. For those who aren't familiar, so in The Brutalist, AI was uh, utilized here. I can link this real fast. Was utilized in the Hungarian scenes, particularly with Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones, and it basically was used to enhance their accents, I guess, because Hungarian's a very difficult language to learn on its own. Um, and there's varying opinions on this. Some people are like, oh, no one lost their jobs over it. It's just a tool used to kind of help flesh out that project, to flesh out that performance. And then there's other people who are like, well, I mean, you give a mouse a cookie, it's a slippery slope sort of deal. And this is how it kind of starts, and then the next thing is going to be okay. And then the next thing is going to be okay. And I'm kind of one of those traditionalists. I kind of draw a hard line and say, if you use it, there's certain disqualifying factors that go into that. So I was curious what you guys, if you haven't paid any attention to it, but what your thoughts are on just the movie industry, obviously kind of going this direction.
I guess I'll start because Ash,
Yeah,
have
go
you seen
ahead. Yeah,
Brutalist?
Marta, go
I
ahead and start.
haven't seen
You
either of the
haven't, yeah.
films you guys are
Okay.
talking
Well,
about.
I first want to make it known I saw The Brutalist before all this stuff came out, and
Uh-huh. Me
I
too.
loved it. I
Yeah, me
loved it.
too.
Did you
I love
like
it. It's a
it?
great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, great movie.
Um, Now what's going on with the discussion for The Brutalist specifically? I am personally still on the fence
Fair.
because if you look at something like Late Night with the Devil, let's use that
Hmm.
as an example.
Sure.
That was generative AI, right?
Hmm.
And my issue with that was it was used for literally like 3 seconds, and it was a very easy rendering.
Yep.
And that could have been done by, even a recent college graduate, a graphic
Yeah.
designer, whatever. That could have
A
been
production assistant who had graphic skills or
anybody.
something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it was so simple. So that was something that could have been avoided, and it wasn't, and that sucks. With this, specifically the accent, because there's two things going on with The Brutalist. There's the accent. I'm torn, and I really want to wait until we get a bit more information because, from what I understand, it was just as you're saying for the vowels.
Yes. But
Just
there's
for the vowels.
also, from what I understood too, there was architectural
Hmm.
renderings.
At the end.
So they were used on some of the sketches within there.
That's
So
that's where I'm again, I'm as you're saying, it is a slippery slope, and I
Hmm.
completely agree with you. And I'm just torn because I've also heard like different stories, especially about the rendering.
Uh-huh.
Like I've heard people say that that whole thing was rendered by AI, and then I
Yeah.
heard other people say, "Oh no, it wasn't." So I don't know. Like I feel like if we had this discussion in a few weeks when we have, maybe an entire
Or,
interview that comes out that's
yeah.
very to the point, then I could give a better opinion. But right now, I'm flip flopping. I really am.
Yeah. Do you, and this is for both of y'all. The thing that I, I watch so many movies now, and there's so many bad movies that come out that I'm almost predisposed. And this is the concern I kind of have with AI too, and a small part is when I'm watching something now, I'm like, I feel like half this movie's AI, whether it was written by it or whether they're using some sort of element within the movie. So I'm already yeah, I'm already in that field where I'm like, I think this was, AI generated in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know if that's the case because I know Hollywood made a really big deal out of this. I was really part of their strike, but so Ash, what are your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, it's hard because like I said, I haven't seen the films you guys are specifically talking
Sure.
about, so I can't really speak to that, I guess. But I kind of agree with Marta. I feel like in certain aspects of it, I really don't know. I do agree that it is. I think everything AI just across the board is a slippery slope,
It
even
is.
outside of the film industry.
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's tough. I feel like you kind of do have to draw a line somewhere because, like you said, where does it end? If you kind of say it's okay
Yeah.
here, but it's not okay in XYZ spots. So
Right.
it's just tough. It's hard to form like a full opinion on it, and it's hard to know going into a film that it's existing. Like I saw Late Night with the Devil before I knew that
Me
that was
too.
even a thing. I was
Yeah,
a
me
second
too. Me
screener and I
too.
watched it and I liked it, and then I was really like, well, dang, that really sucks. But then it's like I know it was a small Australian film that didn't have a very big budget, so I don't know. Like it's
Right.
hard to put yourself in people's shoes and know why they made these kind of decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's just a tough conversation. But I do understand being more traditional and kind of saying like, yeah, it's you kind of have to say no to it because where does it end? Um, but yeah, I'm just not fully sure where I lie on the entire discussion yet.
Okay, that's totally fair. Yeah, I it's one of those things where from my perspective, it's opened a door and like yeah, it is a slippery slope and it's like yeah, okay, well they were really kind of ironing out the vowels and it was apparently only when they're speaking Hungarian, not anywhere else in the movie. And it's like, well, also I think it was the editor who spilled the beans on that. So it's
Yeah.
like you didn't even need to say anything, dude, because that's
Mhm.
going to be a hot topic. So now I don't, the Brutalist before all this kind of came out, I thought was the front runner to win, but now I feel like it's kind of a toss up. Do you with these nominees? Do you guys have any predictions on what you think is probably the front
Um,
runner now?
oh, you brought it back. Okay, hold on. Let
Yeah,
me open this up
yeah, I got
on
it up here.
mine.
I'd
Ah,
love to
let's
think
see.
that The Substance has a shot, but I don't think for Best Picture it does. I think for
Yeah.
maybe acting nominations it does, but I do think that if the AI issue doesn't change things, it would probably be The Brutalist just based on the
Hmm.
Golden Globes, but
Mhm.
it I don't know. I'm kind of holding out for Anora, but I don't know. It didn't win any Golden Globes, so I'm not sure if that matters.
It didn't. I loved Enora.
Me too.
I
Yeah.
think I think Conclave is actually probably the dark horse one right now. I think that one could probably surprise a lot of people.
That's what I was going to say as well,
Mhm.
especially if this whole discourse surrounding the AI for the brutalist
Yeah.
um, ends up becoming even more of a red flag, then yeah, I think Conclave would probably be the dark horse.
Yeah, and yeah, go ahead.
Or it could be Amelia Perez. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
and
it
then
could
I
be
don't
that
know.
too.
Then I walk away and try to like
And it will go down in history as the worst movie to ever win an Oscar,
It
and
wouldn't be the
yes.
first time a bad movie wins.
no, it wouldn't be a first time. I mean, Crash is one of those that if you go back and watch that movie, you go, "How did this win over Brokeback and Capote and what were the other movies that year?" But I just remember Brokeback and Capote were so good,
Mhm.
and then Crash won, and I was like, "What? That schmaltzy thing?" But yeah, and the Amelia Perez thing is starting to gain a little traction too. Other than it not being a movie that a lot of people like, the AI thing that happened in there, because that is generative and that's a pretty big deal.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did want to say that actually before we get back to this, just really quickly about the
Uh-huh.
brutalist thing. There is a distinction, and I think that that is, for me at least, generative AI. There is no room for that in
I
cinema,
agree.
point blank. Like that is just end of discussion for me. When we get into these other different weeds, let's call them, of tweaking a vowel, then I don't know.
Yeah,
So then the whole slippery slope conversation comes into play.
it
Um,
does. It does.
Yeah.
yeah. So I was going somewhere with this, and now it's just completely gone.
Phew.
What were we talking about? Best
You're probably
picture.
thinking that if Amelia Perez used generative AI, then it's like absolutely like not okay if
Yeah.
they win over something like The Brutalist if it's a very different type. But again, it's a hard conversation to have. But I agree with you. Definitely two different things you're talking about because one is clearly ripping off an artist that's already created something.
Mhm.
Yeah, as for best picture, I still haven't seen a few, so I don't know if I can. I haven't seen Nickel Boys. I don't know if that's even
Mm.
out here in Vancouver. I really want to watch it.
Yeah, I heard it's great. I haven't seen it either.
No, I haven't seen A Complete Unknown yet.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't. Oh, and I'm Still Here, which I want to watch. And
I
again, it's
haven't seen
another
that
one of
either.
those where
Those are the
like
only two I haven't
there.
seen as well.
Yeah. Oh, and Wicked, but quite frankly, I'm personally that's not really my jam, so I don't know if I will.
That that's
But
fair. You know what, Marta? I'll say this: that's not my jam, and I ended up loving it. So
oh, maybe I should.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
That was a big screen movie, though. I felt
Yeah.
like that was one that you really had to see in the theater. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, musicals just in general aren't really my jam, and I ended up loving it. So
You
There's
see,
some
I
good
love
ones.
musicals, but I've seen Wicked on stage, and I'm just like, I'm so unsure if I can
if you can
love it the
stomach
same
it,
way. I've heard the color palette is definitely like an issue for some people, which I
yeah,
tend
it's
to
fair.
like not like that coloration that it
Mhm.
has. So,
That
I
seems
I'd never
weird
saw
because
it. I went in with zero context, it was kinda one of those, "Oh, I gotta sit through this movie," and then I
mm,
walked out and was like, "Wow." I mean, actually, what I liked about the movie was a lot of the more quiet moments of
mm,
it. It's a big spectacle. There's, a lot of humor, kind of no, I don't wanna say slapstick, but it's, kinda hokey a little bit, but the quieter moments in that movie they actually resonated pretty hard
hmm,
with me, so, yeah. You never know what you're gonna like sometimes.
that's
true.
true.
I went in full, fully loaded to just be like, I didn't care for this movie, and then came out thinking it was one of the better movies I saw all of 2024.
I love
So
that.
overall in 2024, just from what y'all have seen, how did you feel this year was? Because we had a lot of things playing against it with AI's kind of rearing its head. We had the strikes the year before.
Mhm.
There was some big box office just flops. So it's kind of an interesting predicament where the state of movies are now. So I was curious, Marta, with someone like you who you go to all these screenings and stuff, and you're one of those people that just keeps a lot of these obscure films alive. Where's your head at these days, and how did you feel about the overall quality of movies you watched this past year?
I was really surprised at how many movies I loved. You also
Okay.
have, I mean, we're looking at the best picture titles here, but if you
Mhm.
scroll down a bit at the international titles, there were some fantastic movies that came out. Girl with the Needle, for example, that just came out on Mubi yesterday. That's great. Flow, the animated movie by Ginsel
Yes, that
Belotis,
was great.
also great. Um, what else? Now I'm drawing a blank.
International. Let's see. We got I'm Still Here.
The Seed of the Sacred Fig too. I thought that was a very incredibly important movie that should be seen more.
I haven't seen that, so I'll have to check that out.
It's also the story of how the filmmaker made that film is completely bonkers. I'm not gonna yap on about it right now, but it's a very important film, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, there were so many movies that came out from all over the world. I think I'm more familiar with what came out on an international level than I am in terms.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, also we got The Substance. The Substance was great,
Loved
and
it.
now it's nominated for Best Picture. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah.
I think I saw like a meme or something yesterday of all the people that Coralie Farjaw was clearly influenced by, like Cronenberg,
Oh, yeah.
who hasn't been nominated, and then them just sitting at home being like, "How is this going on?"
I know, it's
Um,
crazy.
it's a huge huge moment. It's yeah,
It
I mean to
is.
have a body horror nominated for best
It's
picture,
a big
good for
deal.
them.
Yeah, because
Um,
the Academy hates horror movies,
yeah.
so, because, did you see Nosferatu?
Yep.
I was super bu I was bummed that that didn't get more love, especially Bill Skarsgård. I mean, just from a transformative performance, I still I'm like, that's a conspiracy theory. That's not him in that role. Did you see it, Ash?
I haven't gotten to yet, no,
Okay.
unfortunately, but I love him and everything he's in, so
Yeah. And if
so
and, I love Robert Eggers, so I
Mhm.
think he's one of the most talented young up and come
mhm.
I don't wanna say up and coming, he's established himself, but
Yeah.
one of the best young directors working now.
He's doing
Um,
something else now. What is it?
well, I was actually we can talk about that. So, he just announced a werewolf movie that he's gonna do. It's called
Yes.
Werewolf. It's a 13th century, rather, I guess, like, gothic horror sorta werewolf movie. And then he just signed on to do Labyrinth 2.
I did not hear that news.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
So,
Wow.
I saw a meme where someone put, Willem Dafoe's face
Yes, I
over,
saw that too.
over over David Bowie's for it
Yes.
to, like, the Robert Eggers Labyrinth. So, yeah. So I have no idea what that's gonna do, but I'm sure it's gonna be practical effects galore and
Yeah.
puppetry and all that fun
I
stuff.
really
So
hope it's Defoe. He would be perfect.
He
I
would
think so
be.
too.
He's
Hmm.
somebody that I just feel like anytime he puts out a movie, I'm excited to watch it, even though like The Witch, for example, isn't my favorite. I still think it's great,
Oh,
but
I love it.
he hasn't made a bad movie yet. So
No.
Yeah.
And you know what? At least his movies, because I know plenty of people that saw Nosferatu and absolutely hated it. It was one of my favorite movies from this past year, but I do his movies do get people talking,
mhm.
which
Oh yeah.
is, for not like huge big budget blockbuster movies, it's a pretty rare feat these days.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then yeah, also one of the other ones I mean that I absolutely loved is Dune Part 2. And Marta, I know like that was one of those huge big budget movies that I think surprised you because you wrote a really great review about that movie. Um,
Hmm.
so I think not seeing Denis Villeneuve get
Mhm.
for best director, I mean he directed the hell out of that film.
Yeah.
I
Was
wrote
actually
that
really
down as like a snub for me for sure.
yeah,
Hmm.
for sure, for sure. What other snubs do you have on there?
Um, I think challengers, like the
Yes.
score
Yes.
mostly. I don't know performance. I mean, I thought some of them were really great, but I get it. But yeah, the score really surprised me with that one, and the fact that it won the Golden Globe and didn't even get nominated is quite shocking.
Yeah, the score was amazing in that. And I mean, Hans Zimmer didn't get nominated for his
Yeah.
score in Dune because
Crazy.
of some weird little stipulation too. I don't know. The Academy seems a little funky this year. One of the other
Hmm.
things that's been coming out is that apparently a lot of the voters didn't even watch all the movies. So I'm like, how are you going to be voting on these movies if you're not watching them? They're like, "Oh, we don't have time."
Well, how can
What?
they
So
when like half of them come out at the end of the year?
yeah.
It's like it never makes any sense to me that the movies that come out in December are usually the ones getting nominated.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I know that's the time to release it within the last week or 2 before the new year. But
You
yeah,
know
Marta,
what?
did you hear that some of the Academy voters hadn't even seen all these movies?
I think I heard that and it was like in one ear out the other. I just kind of
Yeah,
eye rolled. Like, I feel like nothing surprises me about the Oscars anymore. I watch
yeah,
them every year. I'm always excited to watch them. And then yeah, the whole thing just ends up being a whole shoulder shrug for me.
yeah. That
So,
that that was actually my question for both of y'all. Do you the Oscars used to be like, to use the American term, like the Super Bowl for me, and
yeah,
now I could take it or leave it. I don't really care.
yeah.
So I was curious how you guys. I mean, Marta, obviously, you said you get excited and
Mhm.
kind of always feel a little bit empty afterwards, I
Yeah.
guess. How about you, Ash?
Yeah, I usually watch. I mean, there was definitely a chunk of time where I missed some years, but the last couple of years, I think since like 2022, I've been back on it, and I get
Mm,
excited about watching it. And I
sure.
think the last couple of years, I think I had some exciting wins that I was happy about. But
Right.
this is the first year that I'm not as excited about
Um,
it. Maybe it's my own fault for not watching some of these, but I also just think I know where it's headed, um, and it's just kind of a bummer. I mean, most of my favorite films, I weren't nominated, but the ones that were, I unfortunately don't see winning very many. So
yeah, that's true. Like Anora, like you said, that if that won,
yeah.
I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
I loved We Live in Time, and I didn't think that was going to get any kind of nominations. I am happy about Kieran Culkin because I saw Real Pain.
Yes.
Actually, I went to
Yes.
Sundance online last year, so I saw it like in January of 2023, or sorry, 2024, and I absolutely loved it. And so I was
Yeah,
happy to see that, like, as it came out, 10 months later, people were still loving it. And I
yeah,
thought he was fantastic. So I'm
he
happy
was
about that.
very, very good. Did you see A Real Pain, Marta?
Yeah, oh yeah, I absolutely loved it. I really, really did. I thought it was beautiful. I think I cried a few
Oh,
times
I
when I
cried,
wow.
teared
yeah.
up. Yeah,
I cried a
it really
lot
was.
this year with movies.
Yeah,
It's one of those movies where I think it's just going to affect people differently because it's such a meditation on grief. And for me, it really got me thinking about the difference between, how do you wrestle with having your own grief and your own pain in your own life when there is so much grief in the world, and you turn on the news and you see all this suffering. And at what point do you do you stop and think about like what is more important, you know yeah, I think it was just a beautiful look at that, and an exploration of that.
And also
yeah,
just how everyone deals with grief differently too. I
Hmm.
think for me, like with my familial relationships, that was one big thing I took away and just could like relate to. And it was, yeah, just a really powerful movie. I'm glad that people are loving it, but I don't, I hope he wins, but I am
yeah.
a little bit concerned that it won't get the full recognition.
I
So
love it. And you know, one of the things I thought that really got overlooked from that movie was Jesse Eisenberg. I thought he was
Yes.
fantastic in that
mhm.
movie.
I thought
He
it was his
really
best
was.
performance since Social Network.
Absolutely. He I was telling one of my the guys that I had on here a couple weeks ago, I was like, he plays the skinny, overly neurotic, just ball of stress better than probably anybody right now. It's almost like a modern day Woody Allen,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of my comparison. um yeah, so I think for snubs, I would have liked to see him get nominated.
Hmm.
Who were some of the let's see, the
What
actors
I
that we
did
had?
like was seeing Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing.
Yes, that was
I don't
very
think
surprising.
he will win. I hope he does.
I do too, actually. I'd be okay with him winning.
Yeah.
I know Timothy Chalamet is kind of, since the AI stuff sparked, they're like, hey, dust off your Oscar shoes, Timothy Chalamet, but I'd prefer Coleman Domingo as
Hmm.
well.
It'd be kind
You know
of
what
a
Um,
bummer though
surprised
if
me?
the
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ash.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say it'd be a bummer if the actor sort of gets punished for something that obviously wasn't their decision, I guess. Like I'm just thinking about
Mm.
as far as, the Brutalists, the issues with it.
yeah,
It's not necessarily, the actor's fault, so that is kind of an interesting thing to think about if that's gonna impact their ability to take the win or not.
yeah. So what are you guys thinking for actress? Are you thinking Demi Moore is gonna walk away with it?
I would love it if she did. I
I
think
Me
really
she
do
too.
too.
deserves it considering she's
She's
been in the
so good in
industry
that.
Yeah.
forever.
I
Um,
loved Mikey Madison. I did. I really
Sh
did. And I think Honora was like just above the substance for me, like just ever so slightly. But I do hope that Demi Moore wins. I think that she definitely deserves it. And I think it would just be
Mhm.
really cool after all the years she's put in.
for me, I mean, I again, I don't want to jump the gun too quickly because I really want to watch I'm Still Here. I really do. I've heard phenomenal things about
Me
Fernanda
too.
Torres's performance. So yeah, I don't want to give a definitive answer because I think that that movie is one that I would probably quite like.
Yeah, me too. Let's see, what was one more?
Are you surprised by Cynthia Erivo? I know you haven't seen Wicked, Marta, but Chris, I know you've seen it. Does that seem like
I think some people were pretty surprised by her and Ariana Grande, but I mean, honestly, in the movie, they're both fantastic. I thought they were really, really good. From everything I saw, I probably would have nominated her in that because there's like I said, the quieter moments in that movie where you really see her internalizing and she gets very emotional in certain parts. I mean, obviously the press tour with those two didn't do them any favors. That was that was
emotional?
almost that was actually part of the reason where I was like, oh, I don't know if I could stomach this movie after seeing some of the stuff on Twitter with those two. But we get to do it again in 10 months. So
There you go.
but
Um,
she's fantastic in the movie. She really is.
Nice.
I got nothing to add there. I
You got
gotta
nothing to
watch
add to
it.
that?
I was just curious because that way I don't think she was nominated for a Golden Globe, so I
Was
thought that
she
was
not? I thought she
interesting.
was.
Maybe she was. I might have missed it, but
Yeah, and Ariana Grande won, didn't she?
for supporting,
Yeah, I think so.
I
For
thought it
or
was
no, maybe she
Zoe
didn't win.
Saldana that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, I
Maybe she
think you're
was.
right. I think she won for something else. So one of the ones that I really loved is what's his Yura Borisov? Is that how you
Hmm.
say it?
Yeah.
So Mikey Madison obviously gets all the accolades that she so deserves, but when I saw that movie for the first time, I didn't hear anything about him. So to me, that's actually one of the more suiting nominations I've seen throughout
Mhm.
this, because that dude
Mhm.
was the glue that held that whole
Oh,
movie
yeah.
together.
Mhm.
And then I heard when he found out that he got nominated, his wife just started like screaming for 20 minutes, and he's like, I
Aw.
couldn't even think, I couldn't see what was happening. So he just seems like a really, really good dude. But I
Yeah.
absolutely loved him in that movie.
Me
Yeah, I
too.
would not be upset if he won. I mean, obviously, I think Kieran is my number one, but I thought he was so good as is it
So
Igor?
good. Yeah, Igor. Yeah. And the thing I like about Sean Baker's movies is that he can take just a everyday character that you can't really relate to, and he doesn't he makes those roles really stomachable. He doesn't look
Mm.
down on them, he doesn't condescend them, but he
Mhm.
also doesn't, doesn't say, "Hey, this is what you should do for a living." He just kinda tells
Mhm.
the story about the characters that are in there. And I've always
Mhm.
really, really enjoyed that about his work, and then Nora
Mhm.
was really his shining example of his movies thus far. And just the obviously, he has a lot of improv in his movies, um, but just the way the dialogue comes out, it just reminds me of like a mid-90s, almost like a Soderbergh movie or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah, is that kinda how you feel, Marta?
Yeah, I also kind of got some like early Scorsese
A
vibes
little
too,
bit,
like
yeah.
very New York, you know.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of where I mean, you could pull so many influences when it comes to Honora. I always point to Fellini's Nights of Cabiria.
Mhm.
It's to me, it plays out like just a modern Nights of Cabiria of sorts. And that's yeah, that's another reason why I love him as a filmmaker as well, is he's just a genuine film fan. Like
Yeah.
he is a true film fan. I don't know if either of you follow him on Instagram, but he's always posting like these indie art house theaters he's going to, his physical media collection. And I just think that's great. It's just another person that's, you know, shining a spotlight on these movies that mean a lot to him.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I
Hmm.
don't follow him on Instagram, but that's
You
someone I
should.
definitely need
I
to.
think I'm going to though.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
You know what surprised me? I'm just looking at this back just to bounce back really quickly.
Sure.
And that's not to say I don't like her. I love her. I thought she was great in the film, but she wasn't really in it for that long. Isabella Rossellini in Conclave.
Yeah. That one surprised me too.
Again, I thought she was great. Like the few lines that she speaks are impeccably timed.
That's the thing, the few lines that she speaks, she's in the movie for like 5 minutes maybe.
The curtsy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that one just kind of took me by surprise. But I mean, you could say the same thing about Yura Borisov, although he had more lines than
Yeah, he
Isabella
was for
Rossellini.
the first half of the movie, maybe you couldn't, but he becomes a real central figure
Hmm.
towards the end of the
Figure.
movie.
What film were you talking about, Marta? I missed it. I'm sorry.
Conclave.
Oh,
Which where I didn't even recognize Isabella Rossellini at first
is that
glance.
the woman in Blue Velvet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
I
Yeah,
Yes.
just
we're gonna
watched
talk
that for
about
the
that a
first
little bit.
time last
I
night.
know
So
that's we're gonna move on to that probably. You know what? This is a good segue. Let's talk a little
I
bit
didn't
about
plan that, I swear.
well, hey, look, it all works itself out. So yeah, so let's shift focus a little bit. So we lost David Lynch. I know Marta, you've been on a podcast streak of just talking David Lynch, but I'm just from you and I have talked briefly about Twin Peaks and our love for it. But Ash had told me when I said we were going to talk about Blue Velvet, she'd never seen it. So I saw your Letterbox review today. So why don't you take it away? Tell me what you thought about what you thought about the movie.
Yeah, no, I really loved it. I was surprised. I really didn't know too much about it. I was kind of asking Marta like some little things here and there
Uh-huh.
before I watched it because I went into Eraserhead the week before completely
Oh boy.
blind, and that was an experience. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of get an overall vibe. But I think Blue Velvet's much more my speed. I've never watched Twin Peaks, but I definitely want to. But like, yeah, like a town like this, it's like a Leave It to Beaver kind of esque place in this
Hmm.
neighborhood. It all kind of seems so colorful and happy and
White
like
picket
everything.
fences and all
Yeah,
that.
everything is perfect, but you really zoom in and you really see what's actually going on. And I just love the way that that's like visually shown through like, zooming into the grass and zooming into the ear and just these shots that he does. I'm really like growing to love Lynch. I'll be honest. It's a new relationship. It's only been a couple years since I watched my first one. I think I've seen five now, but yeah, I
Yeah.
thought Blue Velvet was great. I think it was definitely one of the ones I loved probably the most outside of Lost Highway. Definitely more absorbable. I feel like I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
come out of it like needing to Google anything or feeling like I didn't
yeah.
understand anything. I'm sure there's more to chew on, on more watches, but just a really solid, like progressive story with, God, Dennis Hopper's performance
Oh
is
my
one of
god,
a
right? Is
kind
that not one of the creepiest, most awesome antagonists? He's such a
ever.
scumbag in that movie.
Oh, it's so I don't know how he does. It's like a multiple personality type of thing. It's just yeah,
Mhm.
just as I learned new things and all these like twists of who's involved, I was just like jaw on the floor. I think the cast is just absolutely fantastic. I always
Mhm.
love seeing Laura Dern and everything. So
Yeah, she was
yeah,
real young in that one too.
she was very young. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I was kind of surprised, but I would say that that one and Lost Highway are probably like the two favorites for me right now.
Yeah. Just to segue, Lost Highway, when people tell me they understand that movie, I don't believe them. I don't believe them.
Even Marta, you say a lot that you don't even fully like. You could continue to find things in that
Yeah, I mean, I
movie.
feel like
Yeah.
I've done a few podcasts now on Lost Highway, and I think every single time I do one, I I say something different with conviction.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of his work. You can really interpret it in so many different ways, and he was always open to having folks interpret it in different ways.
Mhm.
Where with Blue Velvet, I would say it's pretty much more easy to follow, as you were saying,
Yeah.
Chris.
I always tell people that's probably his most digestible film.
Mm.
Should have
Um,
started there.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you started there, you'd be like, "What is Elephant Man 2?" That's a pretty
Hmm.
straightforward story.
Mhm.
But Blue Velvet it's very disturbing movie, but I think it's the least, when Lynch got a little bit older, he got a little bit more wild with the way his movies went, and that one is probably the most digestible, for just general going
Hmm.
audiences. And I think that was Marta, you might know better than me, but I think that and Mulholland Drive were the only movies he was nominated for director for.
I don't actually know. You just put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should know that. I
Oh,
don't.
you know what? I think he was also nominated for Elephant Man. I think he was nominated
Oh,
3
that one,
times.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. That would make more sense.
Yeah, but I know he was nominated for Blue Velvet, and
Mm.
that movie's a cult classic, but it's also probably one of his most commercially successful movies too, which
Hmm.
is crazy. And then
Especially because
wasn't
it came
he
after Dune.
what's that?
It came right after Dune,
Oh,
which
that's
is
right. Yeah,
crazy.
Dune should have been his most commercially successful movie, but it was a gigantic bomb.
Hmm.
I love that movie. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but
Me too.
it's 80s cheese at its best, in
It's
my
it's
opinion.
it's not good, but I have
Yeah,
a soft spot for it. I
me
really
too.
do.
I grew up watching it, so I think
Oh.
it's a little more. So anyway, back to Blue Velvet. So
Mhm.
Marta, what have you? When was the last time you sat down and watched that flick?
I mean, I watched it last night,
Oh, did you? Okay.
but I think the last time I saw it, this is such a funny story, was maybe close to a decade ago. It was
Oh wow.
actually in theaters in town. I took a first date to go
Okay.
watch it. Never called me again after that. I think I had to drive him home after too, and he just got out of the car silently. And I'm like, oh, this is yeah, but you know what? It's a good test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Um,
doesn't get it?
if you don't get it, you're not for me. But what I do want to say to you, Ash, is I think watching Blue Velvet, this is the perfect time for you to get into Twin Peaks because I find
Yes.
that Blue Velvet is like the prototype for Twin Peaks. And it came out right before it, but it's, that similar concept of cookie cutter
Yep.
Americana, and you pull the curtain back and you suddenly have this world of darkness.
I was
Yeah.
actually hoping that that was the case because I was watching it and I was kind of thinking to myself, I wonder if this was inspiration for it, based on what I know about it. And it obviously has the same lead actor.
Yeah. It'd be
Hmm.
So
hard
I'm
to it'd
excited.
be hard to not correlate those two because there are moments in Blue Velvet that absolutely feel eerily similar to what happens in Twin
Hmm.
Peaks. So yeah.
Have either of you read Lynch on Lynch?
No, I haven't.
I have it somewhere here. It's fantastic. But now Ash just reminded me when she said inspiration, there was actually a passage in that book where Lynch talks about when he was a child, he actually saw a battered and naked woman on the street, and that really stuck with him. It was just this, almost traumatic experience, and
Mhm.
perhaps like Blue Velvet was his way. It part of it of grappling with that a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, so what are the themes you guys take away from that movie? I've always looked at it kind of like a loss of innocence, because Kyle
Yeah.
MacLachlan's character at the beginning of the movie is very he's just kind of, all American high school guy, good with his parents, good with everybody in town knows him. And then,
Mhm.
by the end of the movie, he's a completely different person.
Mhm.
And all the stuff he kind of gets entangled uh, in between. Yeah, it's kind of like a duality, loss of innocence is how I've always kind of viewed that
Mhm.
movie.
Ye-
Um,
Yeah, I see it definitely as that. I think you really notice that in the film's end with the
right.
uh, mechanical Robin, because the ending is so similar to the beginning, right? You even have some shots that are almost the
Yeah.
same, and so it brings you back to this suburban dream, I guess. But the difference is he has changed so much, and he sees something like this bird that's so obviously fake, which is empty. It's not real, and it just goes to show that now he knows something's behind this facade. So I think that that's a major element of it. But I also think, and this is a through line with Lynch's work as a whole, is yeah, he shows you the darkness that's under the surface, but I think he wants you to explore it. Like, I think what he's trying to say is, there can't be light without dark. There can't be
Right.
good without evil. You got to have both.
Mhm.
And I think that that is an important aspect to his work that deserves to be touched upon.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially because I think there's a point where Jeffrey is like asking, I think he's asking Laura Dern's character.
Yes.
I think I'm blanking out. Maybe it's Sandy. Is that her name?
Uh,
I think it's Sandy.
why am I drawing a blank?
But
But
he's
yes, I.
asking her like why are men like Frank like this, or like why
Yes.
do they have to exist, or like why they're bad people. And I think it's sort of what you're saying, like you kind of have, like, the world has both, and you're gonna sometimes have to unpack those layers of what can exist inside of the world you live in that you thought was one way, but really there is a darkness always lingering there. And he does kind of go into it, like you said, he does explore it. He's in the closet, that he's there, he's with it,
Mhm.
and he has to kind of deal with that while also wanting to pursue this like normal life with her and just like date and be young, and he's kind of grappling with that and kind of intertwined in both of these worlds simultaneously.
Yeah, did that kind of throw you through a loop the first time you're watching it, Ash, where it's kind of set up like a noir style movie where he's like, I'm gonna go investigate this thing. And then Dennis Hopper's character comes in during that scene, everyone knows. And you're like, wait, what just happened? This movie just took a really weird left
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah, I mean, I read the description, and it
Okay.
included talking about like a sadist, drug addicted, so I kind of knew there was going to
Yeah.
be some darkness
You're
and some
expecting a
graphic.
little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cause you're like, this
violence and
what's
all that.
happened? This movie's a little too happy go lucky right now.
Yeah, it takes you on a ride, which I think all Lynch movies do, but I think it
Yes.
was important for Jeffrey's, like, character development, I guess, if you wanna call it that, to, like, see this through, like, he really couldn't stop focusing on it, but it also goes to show that, like, when you hyper focus on something, maybe you're not gonna like what you find too, and he can't really
That's a good
accept that.
point.
He's very much like, "No, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be a detective, and it's interesting to me, and it's
Mhm.
fun and exciting," but it's like what he finds is really dark and not
Yeah.
exciting in the slightest, but he's kind of hooked. He's in that world now, and he has this connection with her, so he's kind of stuck.
Yeah, that's actually that's a really good way to put it. Um, so Marta, just curious, you're the Lynch fan here. What how do you tier his movies at all, or do you kind of take away different things from each one of them? You don't really kind of is it just the
It's
mood you're in?
Yeah, I think it is because after my rewatch last night, I haven't even written a review yet. But I will likely give it 5 stars. And
Yeah.
I had a point when I was watching Blue Velvet last night where I was thinking, huh, this is so interesting to me because I've been going on these podcasts
Yeah,
lately and
sure.
people ask me, what's your favorite Lynch film? And it depends on which one I saw most recently.
Yeah,
My
recency bias.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I love them all. I really do. Yeah, it's interesting for me to take a step back and because I've been a Lynch fan since I was, I don't know, like 13, 14. I was
Oh,
way
wow.
too young, way too
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
Like, don't take
What
that
was
from
the
me.
first one you saw?
Me,
Yeah.
Twin Peaks.
Okay, okay.
Twin Peaks, and I read Laura Palmer's Diary by Jennifer Lynch. Just again, way too young, just scarred me. I had to like keep it in like a corner of my room. And, woof, like Bob is terrifying. Ash, you'll know when you watch Twin Peaks. Um, where was I going with this? Yeah, so that's what I find so interesting is he was a filmmaker early on in my film journey where I was like, this is my number one guy. I love him so much. And then I got more exploratory as the years went on. I started getting into the other filmmakers, older filmmakers of times past,
Mhm.
let's call them. And now I'm finally revisiting so much of Lynch's work after taking quite a bit of time off, and it's kind of like falling in love with him all over again and
Yeah.
realizing, wow, there's nothing that he's done that I dislike.
Yeah. Inland Empire is the one I could take or leave, I think, out of all his work. But I'm kind of there with you.
Hmm.
Ash, have you so what Lynch movies have you seen? You've seen Lost Highway, Blue Velvet, Mulholland
Yeah, I
Drive?
think the first one I watched was Wild at Heart. That was like almost
Okay.
2 years ago. That was my very first introduction because yeah, I love Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. So I saw
Yeah,
that and I was like, I need to get into Lynch. Maybe it was after talking to Marta. I don't know, but I needed to get more into it. And I thought it was great. I thought it was a wild ride.
I love that
Um,
movie.
but yeah, I think I've seen that one. I've seen Mulholland Drive, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, and one other one. Oh, in Lost Highway. Yeah, so I've seen
Okay.
5 total. And I like them all. They're all like Eraserhead was definitely the one that I think a rewatch would make it better for me, but I still
Yeah.
liked it. Like it wasn't like I didn't enjoy my experience. I just don't think it's I don't know if it's possible to like not be fully in it when you're watching one of his films. I just think that's a style that he has. Like you're just kind of along for the ride, even if you don't understand it. It's
Yeah,
still enjoyable.
that's actually I was talking with someone about that last week. I said the one thing about David Lynch is, like his movies or not, is that you're going on an experience with his stuff, and you almost feel like you can't turn away from the screen. Like if you're like, I got to answer my phone or something, you just wait. What happens next? What happens next? Even with Lost Highway, because that's kind of a pretty simple story until it's not. So so that's always kind of been my thing. And one thing that I've always found interesting about him, Marta in particular, is with Twin Peaks was I don't know if I think he might have like considered that maybe one of his crowning achievements, but in the 90s in particular and early 2000s, television was kind of a faux pas for Hollywood. It was like, oh, you do television, you're not really taken seriously. But he
Mhm.
always seemed to have a really big love for television
Hmm.
because Mulholland Drive was actually supposed to be a TV series, I think on ABC, right, Marta? I was on one of those. It was supposed to be a network
Something,
television
yeah.
show, and the studio saw it and they hated it, and they were like, we're not going to push forward with this. We're not even going to give you a pilot. And then so he said, just give it all to me, and he cut a movie together out of it.
Wow.
But in a lot of his stuff, what I always thought was cool is that he was David Lynch. He had a reputation, but he clearly had a love for, I guess, serials or telling stories like that. So is that something you thought about, Marta?
I don't think I thought about it too much. I mean, Twin Peaks is my favorite.
Me too.
I see it as an entire whole. Like I lump the movie with it. I lump the third season with it.
Sure.
All of it together. I do think it's his crowning achievement. I think what I do think about sometimes is I wonder how it would have played out had it not been for studio interference. Because
Yeah.
remember, they got him to reveal Laura Palmer's killer um, earlier than he would have wanted to.
Mhm.
I sometimes wonder, like, how would that have looked if he had full control.
Yeah, me too. That would
Mm-hmm.
have that's some good food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Ash, speaking of Wild at Heart, do you remember much of that movie? Because one of the things I find interesting about that movie is it's essentially David Lynch's interpretation of The Wizard of Oz.
It's been almost 2 years, so I don't, like, have it and it was obviously my first
Fresh.
time watching one
Yeah,
of his films, so it's not as
sure.
fresh. I remember the ending,
Yeah, the ending's
definitely.
crazy.
But I don't know that if I'm being honest, I don't know that I got Wizard of Oz vibes, but I also haven't watched Wizard of Oz in a very long time, and I'm also not, like, the biggest fan of that movie, so
Okay.
I don't know that I'm the best person to speak on that, but I do know that I thought Wild at Heart was great. It was a
Yeah.
fun journey, so that is kind of an interesting comparison.
Well, it's funny because I think a lot of the characters have correlations to different characters in the Wizard of Oz. Like the what's her name? The mom is clearly the
Mm-hmm.
Wicked Witch of the West, and then there's
Mhm.
Glinda who visits him in the dream and
Mhm.
is at the end of the movie. There's the yellow brick road that they're always going
Yeah,
down.
I
So
guess
there's
that
a
makes
lot
sense
of
as you're saying
a lot of
it.
allegory in that movie. So, Is that something? I think he might have even spoke about that. You probably know better than me, Marta.
Yeah, I actually pulled a quote for you guys
Oh, there we
from
go.
Lynch on Lynch. Can't take all the credit. I pulled this for a different project months ago, and I was like, let's recycle it. But yeah, it's from Lynch on Lynch, which again, highly suggest everybody picks up. But here you go. Quote. I love The Wizard of Oz, and somewhere along the line, it struck me that Sailor and Lula would be the kind of people that could embrace that kind of fairy tale and make it really cool. The world in the film was awful tough, so there was something beautiful about Sailor being a rebel, but a rebel with a dream about the Wizard of Oz. End quote. And I think that Cage pulls that off perfectly, just passion and romance, and it just comes together.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Actually, I've
Hmm.
never heard that. I need to read Lynch on Lynch. Is it written by him? Because the only book I read of his was the Meditations book, the Catching Fish.
Oh, I haven't read that.
That's the only one I read, but it doesn't. It's not very insightful into a lot of his work. It's
Lynch on Lynch is
insightful to how he thinks.
Yeah, Lynch on Lynch is good. The number one book that I recommend, and I've just been telling everybody about it, especially recently, is Room to Dream. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, that's his other. It's his autobiography about all his films and stuff, right?
So kind of. That's what
Kind
makes it
of.
so
Okay.
interesting. And I mean, I couldn't put it down. It's basically you get this is dumb. You get an entire book, but you get one chapter written by those close to him, and then you get the following chapter, a repeat of the first chapter, but told through Lynch's words himself,
That's
if
such a
that makes
David
sense.
Lynch thing to do.
So it's really cool because you hear these kind of opposing stories or different takes of the same period of his life, once by him, once by those closest to him. Yeah, it's really fascinating. I loved it.
Okay. And is it more like just his life story, or is it kind of focus on his films and things of that nature, or is it just all over the
Everything.
place?
It's
Every
just yeah, yeah.
wide. I'll have to buy that. Get that on my Kindle.
Hmm. You should.
Yeah. So, so Ash, are you gonna start Twin Peaks sometime soon?
I think I have to. I'm kind of in the thick of some other TV right now, but they're
Sure.
like shorter seasons. So yeah, I'll definitely look into watching it. I kind of wanted to finish his filmography, like all the films, and then maybe
Sure.
watch the show just so I can be like, okay, I've watched all the films, and I'm not too far off. I mean, I think I've only have a couple more left
Yeah.
um, that I
So
haven't seen. So
make sure you watch the Twin Peaks movie after you watch the show.
yes, the Fire Walk with Me. I've
Yeah.
definitely heard lots about that. But yeah, I think I just have the Elephant Man, Dune, and Inland Empire, and then I've seen all the
Straight
movies.
Story
So
as well.
what is it?
Oh yeah.
Straight Story.
Oh, yes, okay, I do see that one now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 4. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. All right. So we got the next segue. All right. So, well, we talked a little bit about Robert Eggers stuff coming up. Is there? I was going to start with you, Ash. What are you kind of looking forward to doing this next year? I know you kind of had a rough 2024, but you seem to be back on your feet. So, how are things shaping up? What do you got coming up, going on?
Yeah.
All that.
One thing I will say is I'm not attending Sundance online like the full package, but I did get a couple single tickets, and I'm actually excited. I'm watching 2 movies next
Oh, okay.
weekend. One of them's called Twinless, starring Dylan O'Brien, and it's actually getting
Oh,
really
I
good
love that
reviews
guy.
already. Yeah, me too. It's got like 11, I think, so far critic reviews from the festival, and it's like 100% Rotten Tomatoes right now. So
Okay.
I'm excited about that. And then I'm watching this other film. I think it's called Bubble and Squeak. I'd
Bubble
never
and
heard
Squeak.
about it until I was looking at the festival, but it sounds interesting. Look it up. But yeah, I'm excited about that. So that's next weekend. I'll watch those 2. And then I'm just looking forward to being able to get back to the theater this year, honestly, and
Yeah.
figuring out a way to get excited about making content again. I just without being able to go to the theater, it's kind of hard to like really have that passion to talk
Yeah.
about movies. So yeah, I'm excited about that. There's some stuff coming out that I'm excited about. I feel like this year is not like as big of a hype year for me, but I'm hoping some things will come in and surprise me, or some more indie films or festival films will come in and kind of surprise us, which I feel like kind of happened this last year as well.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not really looking forward to a lot of the sequels and
I
big
know.
franchise movies, but some of them might be
How about
surprising. We'll see.
Superman? Do you have any interest in that?
Yeah, I think, with James Gunn doing it, I love the
Mhm.
Guardians of the Galaxy films. That's everyone that knows me knows that. I'm obsessed with those
I love them
movies.
too.
So yeah, I'm hopeful about that. I wouldn't say I'm like super hyped, but I'm definitely gonna see it. And then the Fantastic Four movie I'll see, but that's probably the
Sure.
only like two superhero projects that I'm even really interested in at this point, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to Companion. I've heard some pretty
Yeah.
good things about that. Um, I had a buddy that just went and saw it and he said it was awesome. So,
Yeah, I'm very much
um,
looking forward to that as well. And Mickey 17's coming out soon.
yes,
Mm.
yes, very much
Um,
looking forward to that.
I hope all the like rewrites and changes they had to make really, didn't like drop it down in quality. I'm really hoping that it's, as good as
Yeah,
it
they
was.
pushed that movie back at least 3 times, I think.
Hmm.
It looks a lot more quirky than his other
Yes.
work. I mean, he always has a little bit of quirk in his movies. Even Parasite had some, but this
Mhm.
one looked like, I think that's what kind of took me aback was how quirky this movie looked and Robert Pattinson's accent in
Yeah, it's
it.
very quirky.
Yeah. So, how about you, Marta? What do you have coming up? What's what's on your agenda other than
What's
doing a million
on?
podcasts?
Man, yeah, I wrapped up my podcast and I told myself I'm gonna take a break and I've just been completely
Going on
podcasting
everybody
every
else's?
week.
Yeah.
No, but it's been good. I've finally been able to get back to a lot of people that I've put off going on their podcasts. But for me, big stuff happening this year. I guess I
Really?
am
All
in
right.
the final phases of launching my own publication. I'm just waiting for the branding to get done. So that's hopefully, fingers crossed, is live next month. There will also be a podcast component to that as well.
Awesome.
Although I won't be doing weekly episodes anymore. I think just with the amount of research that I put into some of these topics, it's
It's
just
too much.
impossible to do
It's too
every
much,
week.
yeah.
Yeah. But maybe like a once or twice a month sort of thing.
Okay.
So I have that going on, and that's kind of it. It's eating up a lot of my time whenever you want to start like a bigger endeavor, I guess.
Sure.
But
Still gonna
besides
be
that,
doing McFly's Movie House?
no, it's gonna be a completely new venture.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
yeah, I'm super excited, especially after I learned so much through McFly's Movie House, and it really was a great sort of the
Yeah,
building
building
blocks of
block.
what I want to
Yeah.
do. Yeah, so it's kind of bittersweet, but I'm excited about it, and I would love both of you to come on.
Yeah,
Of
absolutely.
course.
Yeah,
Anytime. You
yeah.
know how to find me. I'm always posting on Instagram, so
It's true, we all are.
yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I mean, some new releases, like Ash said, Mickey 17. I think there's a new Yorgos film that's supposed to come
Yeah.
Oh
out,
yeah.
right? I can't remember the name for that, but
Begonia, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
it.
Harry and I just did a draft of 2025 movies like literally
Oh, that's
24
why I'm
hours
here.
ago. So I feel like I have them on my mind.
That I'm excited for, and then of course the 28
Years later.
28
years. I
years
was
later.
gonna say,
Yes.
what's the
That's one of the best movie trailers I think I've ever
Yes.
seen.
I haven't. I don't
It's
watch
good.
trailers. I
You
try to
don't?
avoid them. I try
Oh
to
man.
avoid them.
Well, if anything, the trailer they cut together for that is phenomenal.
It's worth watching.
I actually wasn't really looking forward to that movie. I was like, I'm so tired of them, basically retconning all these movies
Yeah.
years and years later. But I saw the trailer for that and I go, wow, I'm sold. You don't need to tell. I mean, Danny Boyle's back. Obviously, that's a big
Mhm.
selling point, but the trailer was amazing.
Is Garland writing it again?
Yep.
Hmm.
See,
Yeah.
I like him more as a writer than
Me
I do
too.
a director.
But
Absolutely.
I thought Ex Machina was great.
Oh
Yes.
I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But Civil War, I was kind of bummed out by. I
Same,
didn't. Some people loved it, some people hated it. I was just kind of right down the middle on it. I thought there
same.
was a lot of elements they left out of that movie. But yeah, as a writer, he's next
Mhm.
level. So,
Definitely.
are there any
Yeah.
bigger movies that you're looking forward to? I know PTA's got a new movie coming out
Oh, then yeah, I didn't know about that, but
with
I think it might
Leo.
be
would be.
pushed to 2026 if I
Oh, okay. I
remember
thought it
correctly.
was. I thought it was supposed to come out later this year, but
I think it was like saying December would be the earliest, but likely early
Mm,
2026. So
oh,
we'll
okay. So
see.
they might do the thing that
Fingers
they just
crossed.
do, where they release it on Christmas Day.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I actually don't know about too many movies coming out in 2025 besides the few that I'm excited for. I should probably know that more.
Yeah. Um, one thing I was going to ask you, ladies, with Dylan O'Brien and specifically Ash, did you watch Cotto Lake on Max?
No, I didn't watch that one. I did watch Saturday Night, which I thought he was fantastic
Yeah,
as
he's
Dan
great.
Aykroyd. He was insanely good. I also watched a movie from Sundance last year called Pony Boy, which
Yes.
unfortunately hasn't been purchased, but he was really great in that.
I
I think
think
he's
they
just
I
great in
think they
everything.
just got the rights and
Did
sold that
they?
off. So yeah,
Oh, that makes
I
me
think that's
so
coming out
happy.
this year. Yeah, I
It's
think he
really
was making a
good.
big deal of that. But if you get a chance, so I watch so many streaming movies, and I'm at the point I'm actually making a YouTube video next week. It's just like streaming movies suck, and I'm gonna break it all down because I'm so tired uh, of so many of these. But the Cotto Lake surprised me. If y'all haven't seen it, I
Oh,
highly recommend it.
okay.
It was produced by M. Night Shyamalan, but it was
Oh,
one of those streaming movies I just kind of put on and I was glued to the screen. I almost wish they had more that I could explore in that universe. It
Hmm,
was really good. That
right.
was my streaming movie from last year that I highly recommend for anybody
I'm gonna put that
to
on my
check out.
list.
Yeah, I will check that
Yeah,
out.
put that on the list. It's
Thanks,
and
fella.
Mara, let me know your thoughts. I'd be very interested to hear what you say because it's what you think about it because it's kind of a time distortion movie, kind of has a Lynchian effect to it a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
how do you spell that? That's
it's Caddo Lake.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah,
found
you
it.
can watch it on Max. I
Cool.
don't know if it's different over there
It is. We
in
have something called Crave.
Crave. So
Yeah.
is that owned by
I
whatever conglomerate
It
owns?
must be because all of the Mac stuff is on there. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you can
Interesting.
watch Friends if you're ever feeling in the mood to
Yeah.
go
I
back
was
and.
always more of a Seinfeld sort of
Me
gal.
too.
Yeah.
I was actually wearing my Kramer shirt earlier today. So, but my wife absolutely loves Friends, so we'll
Mm.
sit back and watch. But she likes Seinfeld too. I got her into that. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Mm.
it's funny. I was telling the gal I had on last week, my wife's not into movies at all, and it's
Mhm.
actually kind of nice because I get to introduce her to so much stuff.
Mhm.
But then, whenever I go to the movies, I'm like, ah, she's not gonna like this. I'll just go see it by myself.
But she's willing though. That's nice. My partner's usually just like, You're
They don't
watching something
care.
way too weird." No, like if he's home, it
Yeah.
has to be something at least a bit normal. He's like, "You're always making me watch these movies from the '60s, from I don't even know where, and nothing makes sense." And
I say the same thing to her too whenever she tells me
Yeah.
that.
That's fair.
it's true.
No.
So, Marta, I know we briefly talked about it, but
Mhm.
the movie Cuckoo that came out this past year, I felt like that was probably if I were to introduce someone to David Lynch who's never seen a Lynch movie in a modern day, I'd say watch Cuckoo because that to me kind of felt like the closest representation to an older Lynch movie than
Mhm.
but you might have other examples for me, but I watched that and I go, this feels like David Lynch directing a long episode of the X-Files.
Yeah, I don't, it was one of those movies where I enjoyed it
Mhm.
and I watched it and then within a week it didn't
Just
really have that much staying power with me.
That's fair.
But yeah, I would say visually maybe some elements. I wish I could give you a better answer, but
No, that's fine.
I don't remember. Ash, have you seen it?
I never watched it. I feel like it was one that I was excited about because of Hunter Schafer, but then people were kind of not as into it. So I think it just kind
Yeah,
of fell off my radar.
it's one of those movies where it kind of came and went and it had a very mixed reaction. I know a lot of people that liked it and a lot of people that just didn't like it at all.
Hmm.
I happen to love it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's because I went in with just zero expectations. And I think one of the things I've also taken away from that is that Dan Stevens is quickly becoming one of my favorite character actors. Where he was one of those dudes who was just kind of a pretty boy. He played the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast
Yes.
remake, and now anything he's in, I'm like, I'm gonna go watch it.
Is he in Abigail?
Yeah, he was the
Okay.
best part of that movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought he was really great in that. I thought if I was remember this actor you were talking about, I think that's him. But yeah, he was great, and obviously I think Melissa Barrera was great too. But
Yeah,
not
she's
not the
great.
best movie, but good cast.
Yeah,
I
not the
never
best
watched
movie.
Abigail.
Did either of y'all watch? Speaking of Melissa Barrera, because she's kind of been blackballed by Hollywood, I feel, by what she was saying over
Yeah,
there. But that Your Monster movie actually was kind of a pleasant surprise.
I heard it just got added to Max, so I'm actually gonna watch it now that
Okay,
it's
I haven't seen
streaming.
that either.
it's super indie movie. It
Hmm.
kind of plays out like a modern day Beauty and the Beast. It's a gal who just got over cancer. Her boyfriend leaves her, and she was like in she was in a musical with him, and she ends up finding a monster in her closet and ends up sparking it's a very bizarre concept, but it works really well because if you just embrace the absurd nature
Mhm.
of the movie, you're gonna have a blast with it. And then
Mhm.
the ending is batshit insane. So It's not like the best movie ever, but it stuck around. Like I was thinking about it for a couple days afterwards. Kind of one of those
Wow.
films that just kind
Yeah,
of.
I'll watch it.
I
Yeah,
had
I
an early
just
I had a screener to it. I was just like, I don't know what the hell this is. I watched it and was like, that was actually way better than I thought it would be.
yeah, now that you're describing it, it's coming back to me. I haven't seen it, but yeah, the chatter surrounding it, I'm definitely familiar with.
I think it came out at Sundance last year and it was not available online, so I didn't get to watch it. But I feel like I've had it on my radars like for about a year now, so I need to finally watch it.
How does that work? How does Sundance Online work? Do you just sign up for it, or is it something you get invited to?
No, you have to, I mean, I purchased tickets.
Purchase
I don't have
tickets.
any kind of like, you wouldn't be able
Clout.
to like press that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
do any kind of press tour type of thing. But yeah, no, I purchased like a package. So you basically get access to, you choose 10 movies. But what I learned is that half the films that they have coming out for Sundance are not available online.
Okay.
So you don't know that going into it. It's like I bought a package like in October, and then come January, I selected my films, and a bunch that I wanted to watch were just only there in person.
Okay.
So this year I did the single ticket, which they release way later. So you kind of run the risk of maybe not getting certain films, but everything was available when I bought it just like a week ago. But you just research the films and you pick like I want
Which
to
one's
watch this one film. It's like $30 for one film. You
Oh,
get
okay.
access
That's
to
really
it on your
cool.
TV and you just watch it from home. And they basically say like, at 7 a.m. on January 31st, you can start watching it and it closes on February 3rd, or whatever.
Oh,
So
That's
it's
cool.
really
Do they
convenient.
have an embargo on them? Are you not allowed to review any of them, or?
Not that I'm aware of, no, because
Yeah.
you're just like you're going like as a viewer, you're allowed to rate them and review them on Letterboxd. Not, yeah, I've never
Okay.
heard any kind of embargo on it because they may never get purchased. So there's no like, it's kind of just like bringing awareness to small films.
Well,
hmm.
that's awesome. I have to look into that.
Yeah, I would.
Thanks for bringing that up. I had no idea.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great experience, and I think the single ticket's better because you can really just like decide what you like
Yeah.
from the descriptions and just purchase a couple movies instead of it's like $400 for the package. So it is a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's par for the course.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I think we're gonna start wrapping things up a little bit. I created this channel because I just with the uncertainty of TikTok in this country, it's still even to this day like it's almost impossible to use the app for me now because you can't
Really?
download it from the app store in the
Yep.
states. But Marta, were you keeping up with all the drama going on over here with this? I'm sure you saw some creators and stuff talking
I
about it,
sure
but
was.
it,
Yeah.
it, the ban lasted 12 hours, but you can't use the app anymore. It's not available on Apple or Google because the Congress out here voted against it. So even though the president reinstated it, it's still technically illegal. Just all the politic bureaucrat crap. But so you can't get the app, but you can go on, Chrome or whatever,
Mhm.
get on TikTok, and now it's all broken. It doesn't work that
Oh,
well.
wow. Yeah,
It's
I didn't know.
hard to keep up with, and then it's only 90 days, and we're kind of in a weird purgatory with it right now. So
I mean, I have theories. I don't know if you guys want to
yeah,
talk about that.
I'm all for it because I've also noticed the algorithm is really changed over the last
Hmm.
month. I'd like to say because I
Yeah.
feel like they've been screwing with me, like, and I'm just I'm nobody on there, but like every video I release now it's completely different traffic than it used to.
Peanuts.
Mhm.
Peanuts, yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll release something and it gets 12 views, and I'm like, what? I'm like, usually my stuff was getting like, at least 2,500 per post or
Yeah.
something. And now it's like 12. I'm like, why'd I put in all that work if no one's going to see any of the stuff? Even my followers.
Yeah.
So it's kind
That's
of bizarre,
weird.
but yeah, I'm interested to hear your
Well, I
tinfoil hat
mean,
stuff about it.
uh, yeah, it is very tinfoil hat stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get bought out by Meta. I think I was telling Ash and Harry a few days ago. I think it's a bit telling that our grids on Instagram now look like TikTok.
Mm.
They're longer.
Yeah.
They're not squares anymore.
Mhm.
Yep.
Which makes me think potentially that it could be to keep both things uniform. Like if
Uh-huh.
they are about to buy TikTok, that they want it to look similar, like across the board. That's one thing. I think maybe
Ugh, I hope not.
I know. I think the ban itself, maybe. Again, everything I'm just saying is just me babbling,
Oh
and
no,
I
it's
have a lot of
hey.
time to think.
Yeah.
Um, I think maybe because it was down for what, overnight, right?
Yeah, like
Um,
12 hours or something.
Maybe they were fixing an algorithm thing on the
That
back end, because
I actually I agree with you on that.
if they are going to sell it to Meta, maybe they were getting rid of the part of that algorithm that makes it so good, so they can then sell it to them without the juice.
Yeah. Yeah, because the
Um,
Instagram algorithm drives me insane.
it's
So
awful.
bad.
I'm like, I have 40,000 followers, and sometimes my posts will get like 500 people see it. I'm like, why are you not sending to at least everybody
It
that is
messes with
following
me.
me? I mean, at the very least.
Yeah, following means nothing at this. That's what I learned through my like this last year on TikTok. It felt like because I that's where I like make my videos. I don't
Right.
do like I think you probably like do yours with your camera and then just
Yeah.
edit it for
Yeah.
whatever you need to. I just was kind of making them on TikTok and then I would post and it's like yeah 150 views with like I only have like 7,500 followers or whatever. But the fact
Right.
that they're not actually putting it out to your followers, the problem is people follow you because they see one video and
Yeah.
then they never engage with your stuff ever again. So all these
Yeah.
like followings really mean nothing. It's all about engagement on each individual video. And it
It
feels like if
is.
you're
Yeah.
not saying something controversial, that you're really not gonna get any kind of hit on.
Yeah. And the problem I have with TikTok is it's so overly censorious. And I think it's just the algorithm or like the AI police system that they have. Because like I had a just a Superman post, and they put like that little graphic sensitive material thing over it, and I was like, it's super. What is and then you try to appeal it, and then by the time they look at it and go, oh yeah, it's no big deal, then they just completely throttle it,
Mhm.
so you can't. So
Yeah.
it gets zero views after that. So. I have a very, I know Marta, you of all people have a very love hate relationship with TikTok.
I
So
would say it's more on the hate side of things, but
yeah,
professionally it's
I'm kind of
positive.
leaning there with you too.
I
Just
don't know. It hasn't been the same since I had to make a new account, and
your traffic and engagement and
it's
everything.
yeah,
That's
I feel like
such a shame.
2024 just sucked on TikTok. I feel like
It did.
2023 was much better as far as like people growing, people starting out, and like especially the
Yeah.
film community and movie discussions. It feels like so many people got their start and really were able to like have different niches or still, do
mhm.
well and grow. And then it just feels like 2024 was like,
Yeah,
nope.
especially towards the end of the year. As my algorithm, whenever I'd go through scrolling other people's TikToks, it used to be all movie centric stuff, some sports things like things that I'm interested in. And then now all it is like videos of people that are like, this person has 2 days left to live and they don't even know. And I'm like, I don't want to see. And I mean, that's all it is. It's just like this person died 2 days ago. They don't even know it. And I'm like, I don't. So I reset my algorithm, because you can do that with them. And then it's
Hmm.
all just the same crap. And I'm like, I specifically go to Marta's page. I go to your page. I go to other
Have
creators'
to,
pages
yeah.
just because I want to watch movie related things. And none of it pops up anymore. So I don't know. It's
Maybe
kind
they
of,
did mess with the algorithm already when it went down.
I think that's, I actually agree with you there. I
Join me
think,
with the tinfoil hat.
yeah. Not so much a tinfoil hat. All right, so we're gonna start wrapping things up, but I thank you guys both very much for joining me today. It was fun. I
Thank
always
you.
have fun talking. And Ash, it was nice to finally meet you. I know we've interacted over
Yeah.
over the last year or so. But yeah, so why don't we wrap things up? Oh, real quick, Marta, you guys are both big movie fans. You know what the martini shot is in a movie?
They get a shot of a martini?
Uh,
No, I don't
so
know.
it's actually the last shot of the day. So
What?
whenever you're gonna film the
Oh,
last shot of the day on a movie, they yell out martini shot because what they used to do back in old Hollywood is they'd go grab a martini afterwards. So when they yell
okay.
martini shots, the last shot of the day.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
start using that in
Yeah,
life.
that's why I had to call it that. And so I'd like to ask people if they know what it is.
That's so cool.
Oh, that just
Yeah,
made my day. I love that. Thank you
yeah,
for
that's great.
sharing that.
Oh, I do have one chat. He says Amelia Perez getting noms out the ass, but Denny denied Best Director consideration again. We are lost as a society.
I mean, yes.
In
Yes.
more ways than one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, all right. So, Ash, why don't you tell people where they can follow you, and take it from there.
Yeah. No, yeah, thank you. I mean, it's Ashverse movies on everything. Thankfully, it's all the same handle, Instagram, TikTok, which I'm not really super active on right now, but it's the same, and same on YouTube. I'm trying to find a way to get into YouTube.
I was asking, didn't you just start a YouTube channel?
I kind of like converted my personal one over, and I added like a short just to kind of play around with it. So I'll get more into that this year as, yeah, things get a bit better. And then I do have a podcast called Love, Death, and Movies. We upload every single week for like the last, I don't know, 14 months or so. But it's kind of fun because we do a different like theme every month. So like we just got done with like month of chill. So like really chilly, snowy movies. And then we're
Okay.
doing time travel movies in February. So we change it up and pick 4 or 5 different films that fit in that like genre theme. So it's fun. We'll have to get you on at some point, talk about
Yeah,
something
I'd
that
love
maybe
to.
you love. And Marta's been on before a couple times now, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Love, Death, and Movies is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you can find I post this the next day on Spotify too. So if anybody
Oh,
wants to
nice.
listen. So Marta, I know you mentioned a lot of stuff that you have coming up, but where can people find you other than you being all cynical about TikTok?
Always and forever. Well, on TikTok, I am. What is even my handle? I think
I
it's
think it's like Marta
Marta.
McFly, right? Yeah.
Exactly. The ellipses, which makes it even more uncertain.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to find me on TikTok, it's Marta.McFly. Instagram, where I am more active, is Marta.McFly. I'm obviously going to be updating the Instagram more with updates for when I'm launching this publication.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
Thank you. So if you want to keep up with that, Instagram's probably the best. Letterbox is Marta McFly, no period. And yeah, I mean, if people wanted to check out the first season of my older podcast, it's called McFly's Movie House, and that's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you podcast. But
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for
Listen,
having me on. This was
of
fun.
course.
Thank you
Yeah,
as
I've listened
well.
to both of y'all's podcasts. I enjoy it for totally different reasons,
Thank
but
you.
but,
Yeah,
but
they're
I
very
like.
different.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
crossover. We've had
Yeah.
There is
There you
fun
go.
multiple.
All
crossover.
three of us. We couldn't
Yeah,
be more different, yet here we are.
I
So
love
Yeah.
it.
well, awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hopping on. Always insightful, always a blast. So yeah, go ahead and check these gals out. You'll love their content, and I'm looking forward to seeing what both of you guys have in store for 2025. And let's chat soon.
Yeah,
Yes,
right back
thank
at you,
you.
Chris. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
All right.